Impactful, relevant, historic are just a few of the words that some of the attendees used to describe the Colored Child Welfare Conference, the only foster care conference in the state of Wisconsin to focus solely on the needs of black children and their families. There were over 300 multidisciplinary folks in attendance looking for answers to serve black children and families who are involved in the system.
Good morning. It is 9:15 and we want to honor everyone's time, so we will get started with this first session this morning. I'm going to read some from Ms. King's bio. You can find it on page 10 for its completion. From foster care to education, Ophelia T. King is deeply committed to removing systematic barriers to student success while creating opportunities that enable all children to discover and be proud of who they are and have a plan for reaching their optimum success. Her 15 years as an educator, including working as a school counselor, mentor, coach, and currently serving as a district-wide school counseling curriculum specialist in the Milwaukee Public School District. Ms. King believes as educators, parents, and society, we have a responsibility to create an environment of hope, love, and the very best conditions when it comes to providing children with quality education that will enable them to become confident, successful learners who can achieve their aspirations. Ms. King's academic achievements include her master's degree in educational psychology, administrative leadership, and curriculum instruction from the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. Woo-hoo. And a Bachelor of Arts degree from Winona State University in English. She is a member of the Wisconsin School Counselor Association and is currently a member of the Wisconsin American College Testing Council. She is a mother of five. She is the mother of five. She is the mother of a 5-year-old. She's got many children. And when she's not working, she enjoys cooking and attending college and high school sporting events. I present to you, Ms. King.
Thank you. How are you all doing? So this session is going to be very interactive. So we're gonna start out by taking a quiz. You guys ready? So first question we want to start out with is important for us to kind of get on the same page. So I want to make sure that we all have the same thought process as we're talking about improving outcomes for students in the area of education. It's one of those taboo subjects that we typically do not talk about that much, especially in the black community, unless we're talking about the statistics, the deficiencies. Okay? So the first question we're going to start with for our pop quiz: does education matter?
Yes.
So what do you all say? Who says yes? Okay. Anyone say no? All right, so we got that established. All right, so why does it matter? Why does education matter?
Without it, you can't be successful.
Without what? Education? You can't be successful? Okay. Yes, ma'am.
And it also teaches you your morals, your values, and how to respect self and others.
Okay, everyone hear that? Anyone else? Why does it matter?
Education is power.
Education is power, okay? Think about what you would say to a student. They don't care about power, right?
One thing that can't be taken from you.
So, knowledge, one thing that can't be taken from you. Anything else?
Respect.
Okay.
Self-worth.
Self-worth. All right. Y'all getting there. You'll be working hard with some kids. Talk about self-worth. Right? They'll be like, what's that? I have that. And I'm serious when I say that. All right? So education matters. We've talked about why it matters. So who does it matter for?
Yourself.
Everyone,
everyone else.
education matters to everyone.
Okay. Anybody else? You guys are quiet. So, for whom does it matter for?
The community,
The community? You want to elaborate on that?
so that people can be prepared to have good jobs, know how to read, go to college.
Okay. Good.
It's also the way our society is structured to reach success. That's part of socialization.
Okay. Anyone else? That's a very key question. Whom does education matter for? And because we don't know each other, right, we're not really going to say everything that we're thinking or that we have been taught. Because there is a distinction, whether we act on it or not, in terms of whom the education matters for. And when you do some research about it, it's very important for children who are in poverty. Rich, affluent, middle class, you're teaching your kids, or you're in a family, you're in an environment where you're going to learn whether you come to school or not. Yes, you all say yes. I don't want to talk and say something that you don't know what it means.
Well, I'm sorry.
Okay, so when we're talking about the video, is basically going over two major components that we're going to spend some time with today: career and college readiness. So we're talking about rigor. You're talking about how advanced the curriculum is, what they're studying, how challenging it is. Basic English class versus an AP English class. So the amount of space that the student has to sort of take more challenging courses. That's essentially what we're saying. So we started out by defining if education is important, why it's important, and for whom it's important. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the research that is currently the conversation in regards to why a student needs education and what the student is typically that we're looking for to be successful. So you all, just to get a sense of who's in the room, tell me your occupation, just really quick, or why you're here.
I work in treatment foster care.
Okay.
Treatment foster care.
I'm a professional treatment foster care.
Place kids in home care.
I'm a social worker that places kids in out-of-home care.
I'm the court liaison for MPS.
Former Head Start teacher, now professional foster care, treatment foster care.
I'm a foster care social worker.
Treatment foster care and also working back around Milwaukee.
I'm a legal guardian of my great-great-nephew, and I'm new to all of this. High school guidance counselor.
Town manager, GE.
Juvenile intake and probation.
I work for Children's Community Health Plan, care for kids, and case management, non-medical care for children in foster care. I'm a former teacher.
Treatment foster care.
Division Milwaukee Child Protective Services.
Treatment foster. And treatment foster counselor.
Transitional hours and other laws.
Treatment foster care. Foster parent and supervisor of low-income housing.
All right, we got a good group here. This is like a dream come true. All right, I wanted to know that because it's important so I can touch on some things that specific to the children that you're working with. Okay, so U.S. Department of Ed national research shows that children in foster care are at a high risk of dropping out of high school, unlikely to attend or graduate college. Coordinated effort. What happens is the efforts that's coordinated by the agency and the school system are not currently working together. So the agencies know that you have children in foster care. School district does not necessarily identify who those kids are. Okay? Is that a secret to any of you?
No.
Okay. So you know that. Sorry, I apologize. I don't have a clicker. So there are very key things that are important in terms of what does a child need to be successful. Okay? So in research you can do so much research in regards to college and career readiness. So there are key things. What do you guys think those are? Kids gonna be successful? Who's got kids of your own? Okay? Kids gonna be successful? Or for you to be successful, how did you get to where you were? What are some things that are key?
Attending, going to school regardless of it's elementary, middle, high school, just being present.
Okay? I'll let you know when you hit
Love and nurture.
the 7 important. Love and nurturing, okay? Okay,
The quality of education being received.
okay.
It's like all the kids that read at like a second grade level, but they're in 11th grade.
That's good. Proficiency in reading. That's the first one.
Motivation.
Motivation. Okay? Yes.
Routine and structure.
Okay. Come on, just throw them out there.
The value of education in your household.
Okay.
Math skills.
Math skills. Math proficiency.
Social
Right
skills.
Communication skills.
Okay. Communication skills. So I heard writing, English proficiency. Okay. Good. Specific math skills. What math are we talking about? What's the most important math class?
Basic.
I heard it. Algebra. Okay. Algebra, key component. I'm not even going to talk specifically about any school district, but I want you to know the keys. So when the students that you're servicing, that you understand what are some of the keys. So algebra, proficiency in algebra by 8th grade, by the end of 8th grade, so that when they get to high school in 9th grade, they pass algebra. It's a predictor for college success. Algebra. What else? We're almost there. Two big ones. What do you think? Reading? Yes, we did say that. Thank you, though. That's true.
Opportunities for problem solving,
Okay.
working with others,
Good.
on a team to problem solve.
Yes,
What
good.
about
I'm going to
social
get to that.
studies and science?
So I'm kind of talking about the first wave of important things that the school district, the society, educational world sees as key, and the things that we focus on. Okay, so I'm going to get to some of those. You guys are coming up with some of those other things because of the field that you're in and your lens. So 2 more.
Their grades.
Okay. 2 more. I'll give you a couple more guesses, and then I know you're like, just tell us, lady. Just tell us.
Proficiency in science, would that be one also?
No, but good.
What about test taking skills?
So, test taking.
Oh, GE.
Important tests. What's the most important test?
The
Standardized. What?
ACT.
ACT. So, readiness on the ACT, as shown on the ACT. Readiness in all levels. So that's good. 1 more.
Testing the SAT.
Yep, so we have testing. I'm sorry,
Okay.
2 more.
Um,
2 more. Financial literacy. Big one. Okay? Financial literacy. Understanding what it's going to cost. Understanding, and I'm going to tie that back into you all, show you the U.S. Department of Labor in terms of education and what it means in terms of finances. So financial literacy is important. All right, one more. We talked about it through the video. And that is a student taking AP course, work-based learning. They don't even have to pass the AP course. Just take it. Exposure to the course alone increases their chances of being successful in college. Just taking a class. That is not easy to do. Okay? Students just want to take what they need, what they think they need, and that's it. You guys got all 7 of those?
Can you say them again? 4 or 5?
All right.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Proficiency in reading. Okay? By the end of 3rd grade. Proficiency in math by the end of 3rd grade. Successful readiness in algebra by the end of 8th grade. Financial literacy. Taking an AP or advanced placement course, IB, work-based learning, all of those are sort of looped in together. You got 4? What did I miss?
The ACTs, the financial
ACT.
literacy.
ACT readiness. All right? That's 5.
And then the financial literacy.
Financial literacy.
I thought you had that.
I'll go back over those later. Okay?
So we got reading,
So,
math,
moving forward, there's a national research center, the Educational Policy Improvement Center, where you're going to find Dr. Connolly. So Dr. Connolly is the largest guru recently in terms of college and career readiness. And he asserts that a student who is ready for college can qualify and succeed in entry-level courses. And you all can see that. Basically, it's not a student who can just go to college, get accepted, but they're going to graduate. They're not going to spend the first 2 years redoing high school over. So in terms of improving education, you always have to start with what student are you looking for at the end? So what is a ready student? So when you're working with students, when you're working with school systems, you know what are some key things. So if you have a high school student who wants to drop a certain class, you can advocate for that student. And it's very key to go beyond saying you just need to attend school. Okay? Attendance is important, but you have to know a little more of that if you're going to be advocating for students. Okay? So the new measure that we're seeing, Conley has sort of redefined college readiness yet again. And so it's really looking more deeper at the student and the student's resiliency to overcome obstacles. And we see that with our foster care students. Okay? We see all those characteristics, all those qualities, but they are important in terms of helping that student later on in life. But you have to help them make that connection. Does that make sense? We're going to get to the student, don't worry. We're going to get to the foster care. But I'm trying to paint a picture for you all on what's important in terms of education. Because what happens is the Department of Family Services, the child care world, the system, you have one set of rules, language, understanding, and then education has another set. And while you're focusing on shelter, food, safe housing, the education world is focusing on reading scores, math scores, and we're not bringing the two together. And that's why neither are improving. So you need an understanding for the educational system, and the educational system needs an understanding for all the basic needs of a student. So let's look at the new measure. The new measure of a sufficiently prepared student. Again, we're talking about the end. We're not even looking at the foster care aspect. So what? Right? We're not even looking at that yet. We're just talking about who is going to be successful at the end of high school that can go on and have choices, have opportunities for living a successful life, because we said it was important, right? So this person has the knowledge and skills to keep learning beyond school. So they know the value of education. They're not going to say, oh, I have my high school diploma and I've done a major, grandiose thing. We really say that after 8th grade, right? You all see the limos at the 8th grade completion ceremony? Okay, so they have the knowledge and skills to keep learning beyond secondary school. And then also in the workplace. Because eventually, every student must work, right? So that's why we look at college and career readiness. Because if you're college ready, you're going to be career ready. Any school, most affluent schools, they miss the career piece. So, oh, we're preparing kids for college. But even after you leave college, you're going to do what? Work. We're all going to eventually be working somewhere. What type of... Let me move through this. So that the student is capable of adapting to unpredictable changes, new economic conditions, and opportunities. So this is the college and career-ready student. Key thing here. Capable of adapting to unpredictable changes. Does that sound familiar? Do you have students that are capable of doing that? That's important. If you know any students, they fail a class, they drop out. College. Okay? Some. They don't know how to handle difficult situations. Does it mean you're not college material if you fail a class?
No.
Does it mean you're not ready for work if your supervisor corrects you?
No.
So that's a key skill that we know the children in foster care already have that skill. But it's making the connection for them that's an important skill. Making the connection for them. Instead of showing them the deficiency, showing them how, all of this that you hear it, all of this that you're going through is going to make you a better, but that is true. Because this is the type of kid we want for all students, irregardless of their background. And we don't have that student currently. So, Conley talks about 4 keys, and we alluded to these earlier. So we want a student who can think. Think about how to solve problems. Know how to navigate through certain situations. Okay? We also want that student to know. Now, the knowledge does not go away. So, the key thing is this. If you're deficient in reading, does that mean it's over for you? Because now I know reading is important. I know I'm behind in reading. So what do I need to do? So the student knows that. The student is able to problem solve that. The student also knows the value of effort, that you have to do something. They know the language. They know the importance of all the things involved in education. They're not in the dark. They know they've taken courses that they need to prepare. Okay? Communication skills is there. You all see that? They understand how to research. Act. There's an ownership piece. You know of a school district, just as an example. There's a high school. The high school, one of the courses in the high school, the teacher is not successful. They come in, they fire the teacher, right? They fire the principal. 2 years later, they do a case study. I'm making this up, right?
Okay.
Do a case study. They talk to all the students in that class. And the students talk about, you know, we felt so bad that the teacher and the principal was fired. They were teaching all they could. We just weren't doing anything. We forget the ownership of the student. So how do you teach ownership? How do you let them know, besides saying, I have mine, you have to get yours. So you have to go beyond that. So there's a sense of ownership. There's a technique. We're in a system. So there's something, some actions. For example, we were talking about financial literacy. So what's the biggest action of finances in terms of going to college? What's the biggest action? Completing the financial aid, completing the FAFSA, right? Free application for federal student aid. You all see the difference? So there's an action that the student needs. And then go. We know what go means, right? You can't have the knowledge, you can't know how to problem solve, you can't believe in your education, and then you do nothing about it. So the last step is the go piece. All right? So now we're going to shift into, I'm going to go really quickly through this, because this is where I think sometimes we get stuck. Who we're dealing with. So typically, who we're dealing with in terms of the statistics, who's in foster care, supersedes all the other stuff that I just told you. Right? So, so what we know about foster care and African Americans in the educational system is that they're overrepresented in the gaps, in the achievement gaps. Okay? Children in foster care are more likely to attend a lower achieving school. Because typically, the parent is gone. So that decision making and choosing the best school, who's doing that? You're a foster parent. Are you choosing the best school based on their test scores? Are you choosing the best school based on, is it closer to the house? Do they have busing? Do they have an after-school program? I'll take questions at the end. If they have an after-school program, how is that decision being made in terms of what school the child attends? Okay? All the schools should be good. Yes, we know that. But that's another conversation. Okay? So, foster care youth, 16 to 20% below non-foster care youth in standardized tests. So they're scoring lower in those tests that we talked about. And after completing 10th and 11th grade, on average, we know they're reading at a 7th grade level. So we already know that they're deficient, right? I don't have to tell you that. But I just want to put it out here in case. Oh, thank you. You didn't know. So, the research on higher education, these are some highlights from 2014. 2 times more likely to be absent. Again, the school doesn't know that they're in foster care. So if the school hasn't identified or made a connection, so let's say, for example, if I know you're 2 times more likely to be absent, I have to have something implemented so you don't be absent. Correct? There has to be an intervention there. And that's not necessarily happening. Maybe or maybe not. Okay? If I know that 17 and 18-year-olds are 2 times more likely to be suspended and 3 times more likely to be expelled, that's a decision that the school has to make. We know they did something, right? But how am I going to, what's going to be the consequence for that? And that's where your advocacy comes in. So we already know about the stability of the home, how often the student changes schools. All right? Anything up here surprise you? All right? Oh, I forgot. So what are the barriers? So these are some of the top barriers that are highlights. We know there are more. So barriers mean what's preventing you from receiving everything you can out of education. I like to think of them as excuses. And typically, you want someone who understands not necessarily all of your business, all of the child's business, all their personal information, but you want them to understand the urgency of why this child needs something more, something extra. And you are the best person to convey that to the school system. Because remember, I'm just talking about one group. There are other groups, right? There's the male group, there's the female group, there's the special ed group. We're only looking at one specific group today. So you have to advocate on behalf of your student. I advocate on behalf of my son. He's on 5. I mean, like, seriously. I'm the PTA president. I'm at the school I need to recognize that. Or if I hear a couple of the teachers say he's a bully, I have to correct that. He's 5. So it's my job they don't know my child like I do. Nobody knows the students that you're working with like you. Or do you know them? Or are you just servicing them? Right? We haven't really got to that, right? You want to make sure you know them. Who's in your house? Who's in your care? And make sure you don't have the biases that we see in the statistics. Okay? So if I don't know my rights, remember, think, know, act, go. The student, all the education, are they attending classes? How do you get them ready for this? Okay? So this chart is a lot going on, but I wanted to show you the graduation rates for the state of Wisconsin. And the state of Wisconsin have what's called Wise Dash. It's a public site. You can pull up any data that you need. Graduation rate is very important. It's really, when the state tells you your graduation rate, people listen. Okay? So what you see here is that our 6-year rate is higher than our 4-year rate. And a lot of people like to pull out the positives, but there's nothing real positive about it. It's taking you 6 years to get out of high school. Okay? But at least you're getting out. I guess that's a positive, right? So you can see it broken down by ethnicity and race, by race. So African American is right here. Okay? What do you notice about that? Huh? It's the lowest. When I talk to my son's teacher, that's what I tell him. He's African American, he's a male, lowest graduation rate. Don't send home the worksheet with the caterpillar and the 1 through 10, and he's got to fill in the numbers. He's done with that in like 2 seconds. Okay? So, did you all know this? Is this new data for you? Again, you can't go to a high-paying job or internship unless you finish high school. You have to first finish high school. And actually, it's not, our graduation rate is really, it's not like it's out the water for all the groups. I mean, it should be at 100% for everyone. Okay? So I wanted us to pause for a minute and just think about who we're servicing. Get a student in your mind. Get a child in your mind. What do you think about that child and their future? You can close your eyes. Whatever you have to do to just get a child, someone you're servicing in your mind. What have you said to them? What are your messages? in terms of their education. Okay? Because we said education was important. And typically, children are listening to the messaging, what they see, as well as what they hear. And we know that it's not like everything you say, like, oh, that's not true, I'm going to be successful. Oh, I know my mom has made some bad choices, but I'm still going to be successful. Do you hear kids say that?
Yes, yes.
Not typically. Okay? What do you say about their parents? What do you say about their families that they come from? So we always want to remember, what are we saying? What do we say about education? Obviously, we all work, right? Yes, or retired or something, you know. What do you say about education? What do you believe? How do you talk about your own experiences? How were you in school? Did you complete? Why not? Was that important? So what is all the messaging that they're hearing in terms of education? Because we said it was important. Okay? You got a kid in mind? A child? Everyone have one? Yes?
Yes, yes.
You can see them? Okay. Them, him or her? Go ahead, man.
I'm sorry.
So there's a study called the Invisible Achievement Gap. And it was done by the state of California. And they're looking specifically at foster children in the state of California. And they called it an invisible gap because no one is paying attention to this group. No one has typically paid, and I was gonna print it out and give it to you, but it's like almost 200 pages. So you can look at it. It's very detailed, has specific. They found these specific findings and solutions for school districts and child care agencies. So we know the state of California is larger than Wisconsin, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so we're just using them as an example. It's a good comparison, okay? And what they found in the areas of proficiency in math, because remember we said that was key, is that foster care, again, I told you there are a lot of groups. You see at the bottom, those are your groups. Students with disabilities, English language learners, low SES, low socioeconomic status. So in the education world, we educate and then we look at the groups to see how each group is doing. And what they found in their study is that over and over, the foster care group is doing the worst. And we're just looking at the area of mathematics, proficiency in mathematics, 37%. Okay? And on the Y stash that I mentioned, you can go back, you can look at the school district, you can break that down into specific groups. Okay? Go ahead. And then the next slide, it's looking at graduates within the different groups. So in the state of California, they've actually looked at the success in terms of education for their foster care kids. And they're calling it invisible gap because no one is looking. Typically we're looking, I work in the school district, we don't differentiate between foster care as a separate group. Okay? So what would our data look like? Everybody see that? So are you familiar, you're familiar with the Fostering Connections Act? You all familiar with that? Okay. This was an attempt to ensure that students have a stable school. Okay? Students have, I was like, oh my God. Students have a stable, were you guys cheering when this act came about?
Until reality hit us.
Right. because it's always who's going to enforce it. But that's your job. Because I'm in the school district. Until I started doing this research, I didn't even know that there was such an act. I did not know. So again, there are some. It's all about your lens, what's important to you, and what you're fighting for. And really, you're the advocate. You're on the front line for the foster care youth. Okay. So we want to first make sure that regardless of what home they're in, that they can remain in the school district, and that the school district or the agency that they're with provides their transportation. Correct? So let's talk about solutions. My biggest, most important solution I can give you is, again, I've alluded to it, advocacy. Not going to the school saying, oh, I have this child, telling them all the most horrific things you can ever think about to say about that. That's not an advocate. Your job is to, and we're talking about educational improvement outcomes. So you have to first know the important language in the area of education. You have to do some research. You have to equip yourself. What does the child I'm caring for serve? If you're with an agency, what training is being provided? Because you're responsible. We're responsible for making sure that our students know this. Yes, they're advocating for themselves, but sometimes they don't know. They can't. Your first thing I can tell you is that you're an advocate. Foster care issues are important. Yes?
Yes.
The school district, again, I told you, we're not separating foster care issues. We have a lot of issues. So why should I be thinking about foster care issues? You have to help the school see that. And that doesn't mean, you get a sign and you stand in front of the school and you just, foster care issues are important. That's not what I'm saying. In your work, in your trainings, who's responsible for collaborating with the school district? Are meetings taking place at the school district? Do you have to go to the school? What are you saying on behalf of the student or the child? I keep saying student, child. So, are you defending them? Yes? You guys didn't know you was a fighter?
Yeah.
Anytime you're talking about kids and education, you in for a fight, because you'll find out not everyone cares. Not everyone cares. So you have to be willing to fight for that child. Ensure their views are considered. Again, when I go to the table, I'm looking at a lot of views. I'm first, and I'm just, not me in particular, but I'm going to first start with my own views, my own personal agenda. How do you ensure, if it's health care, if it's making sure that the bus picks them up in front of the house, whatever it is, how do you ensure that their views are considered? Have you considered? Again, remember I told you about the school, they fired a teacher, they fired a principal, they never talked to the kids. We never consider their views. We never consider what they want. We just think, we put you in a better home, you should be all right. We buy you some shoes, get you some clothes, get you some food, you should be all right. What you mad for? Okay? And that's even with your own personal self. You're an advocate. Okay? Let me move on. Getting to know the school personnel. Who's a foster parent? Come on, put your hands up. Be proud. Do you know the school personnel? Do they know you? Do they see you? Not for behavior. I mean, everyone in the school knows me. The janitor, I give him food every now and then, gift cards. Everyone in the school knows me because I'm there for my son. Anything go down, I'm Jacob's mom. I don't even matter anymore. Do they know you at that school? Do they know you will go to war not physical. I have to clear that up. Know the school personnel so that you can advocate who are the teachers. And one of the biggest things in terms of advocacy, you are not there to be against the teacher. You are not there to be against the school. The teachers have a hard job. You're there as a partner. What can you offer to them? What suggestions can you make? Because again, you know more about foster care than anyone, I hope. That's your area, okay? Attendance matters. Do you believe that? Attendance matters. There's so much research about attendance. I talked to you earlier about the student, because we know that the majority of foster care children attend what kind of schools? Poor performing, lower achieving. But it's still good for them to be in a school than at home, playing a video game, or not going at all. Yes, we have to hold the school accountable. That's another conversation. Attendance matters. Okay? Hope. How do you instill hope? We know 1 in 5 children are not hopeful. What that means, they don't believe that they are in control of their future. Are you hopeful? It's hard to be hopeful. If you live and you work, how long have you all been doing what you're doing? Over 10 years? 18 years? How do you re-energize? How do you stay hopeful? Because what have you seen that make you be hopeful? You see me today, right? I'll tell you about that later. But how do you stay hopeful? I'm in education. I have to try to be hopeful. Because every day I don't see hopeful things. This is the key. The most important thing I tell you today, this is the most important thing. How do you get the child to be hopeful in spite of their living condition, in spite of their parents, in spite of what their uncle did, whoever? How do you get them to still be hopeful? You need to do some research with that. Do some reading. And you also have to instill hope into that school. Because if it's a low-performing school, guess what? Little hope is there. And they're not going to tell you. But little hope, little belief. I can't tell you how many times I hear people say, oh, this school. We expect this from this school, from these kids. This is what we expect. Hope is not there. Okay? And we tend to affiliate hope with like church, the pastor. It's going to make me hopeful. But hope is important. Remember, you growing up, what did your mom say? There's a will, there's a way. You all remember that? That's being hopeful. There's a way, there's a will. That's being hopeful. How do you instill that? And lastly, academic support, encouragement. So typically in foster care, you're working on the physical, mental needs, maybe emotional. But what about the educational needs? Are you working on that? Is there a policy in relation to the school district and the agencies coming together once a month to discuss the educational needs? What is being done to improve the educational needs? We know about the physical. Mental is suspect because we don't think anybody have any mental issues. And I'm just talking about my community, black community. You know, oh, you just need a little oil, a little prayer, and you just go be all right. So physical, mental, emotional, and educational. That's a lot. How do you ensure all those needs are met? Okay? So here goes some resources. I meant to bring some books today. I do apologize because I was going to get some of them out. Making Hope Happen. There's a lot of research out there regarding the psychology of hope. I'm currently reading this book now. How to Make Hope Happen. Specific things that you can do by Shane Lopez. Dr. Conley wrote a book, Getting Ready for College Careers, The Common Core. Excellent, excellent resource. It's not one of those Tyler Perry books. You know, you're not going to be excited and, you know, it's a learning, it's a journey. So it'll help you sort of learn some of the language and the cues in terms of the school district. Multiplication is for white people. Raising the expectations for other people's children. Lisa Delpit. Excellent read. She does some research on African Americans in terms of how they compare to other races before they enter school, and then what happened once children of color get to school. What did we do to them? So she explores that in that book. Trauma-informed training, school districts throughout the state, everyone is being informed about trauma. Here's the difference with that. What are you going to do about it? You know, I have a foster child. You have a foster child in your class. Challenge them on that. How are they going to provide different? I don't want to tell you more things that are going to make you more afraid to teach. Okay? The McKinney-Vento Act, you all familiar with that? So we know that typically foster care is not a group that is singled out. So this is typically for improvement of homeless students. Okay, so this is a way to receive some services in terms of financial aid assistance, transportation, housing. So it's under that umbrella in terms of where the student is receiving some services within the school district through the social worker, etc. Okay, and then there's a scholarship. So remember, financial literacy. You're telling the kid, oh, you're going to be successful. Oh, you're going to college. How are they going to pay for it? Does the state have a full ride in the state of Wisconsin for every child who's in foster care? Do we have that currently?
Not a full ride, but they do have, they can receive like $5,000.
Yes, that's the scholarship, $5,000. You all know what $5,000 gets you one class. So you're out of the system, right? You don't. They're out of the system now.
Right.
So $5,000. What about food? What about housing? So what about a full ride?
Yeah, they get other grants.
You guys are the advocates.
Yeah. Research.
Okay. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. I saved this for the end. So this is my family, my 7 siblings. 5th grade graduation, got home, police were at my house. We were going to be taken away from my mom. I went to my graduation alone. So these are all my siblings. And we are all successful. We're all working, and it's 7 of us. I'm not going to go into the negative because we already know that. Mm-hmm. We already know the statistics, okay? So in terms of education, we all have a high school diploma, every last one of us. I have the most degrees, but one of my brothers just told me this weekend, he said, I don't want to go back to school because Obama. I don't want to go back to school because my girlfriend. I want to go back to school because of my sister and what my sister did. He said, you're my role model. And that's my younger brother. Again, 7 kids separated. We were all in different foster homes. You know how they double you up. My brother in the middle, he looks like our dad, but that is my brother. He's the oldest, so the oldest has it the worst. They have to play the maternal role. But we are all working. No one's in jail. No one's done anything to hurt anyone that I know of. No, just kidding. But when I think back, in terms of the most important push that I have It wasn't extra tutoring. Okay? It was the things people said to me and the people I met along the way. Because I always met someone. But it was the things that people said to me, the encouragement. And that's why I talked about the messaging. What are you saying to the kids you're caring for? What are you telling them? What are you saying about their families? Anything you say about a child's family, mother, you're saying it about them. Because they love, I still love my mother to this day. It doesn't matter. She died in 1999, but I still love my mom. You couldn't tell me nothing about my mother. Never called anyone mother. Never made a personal affiliation with a family. I never thought I was in their family. I still consider myself in my family. Okay, so whatever you say about a child, their family, they're going to take personal ownership of that. So by the time I did go to college. By the time I went to college, me and my sister were living together. Did not receive a scholarship until I was my second year. But personally, I did not have financial awareness, financial literacy. So I thought that you get the grant, you get the financial aid, and I was going to be all right. Until I got on campus, and they told me, oh, we don't award financial aid for 6 weeks. What? Because, I used all my money for tennis shoes, buy outfits. That's what I thought I needed to go to college. New outfits, shoes, and I never thought, how was I going to get to college? I got accepted, and I went 4 hours away to an all-white community. I'd never been to an all-white community. Even though you live in Milwaukee, we're very segregated. So I go to high school with all blacks. I go to school with all blacks. The only white people I saw were my teachers. I had one Spanish teacher who was black. My Spanish teacher, Mr. Jackson. But I went to an all-white school. Never thought about how was I going to get there. It never crossed my mind. One of my best friends, who was from a fluent family, her dad said, I'll take you. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Appreciate him. Police officer here in Milwaukee. So I came out with all my things, my shoe boxes. I had 30 shoe boxes. He said, where are you going with those shoe boxes? Because I thought that's what I needed. Even though I was working full time. I always worked. J.L. Marcus was my first job. You could take out loans at J.L. Marcus back then. So I always loved J.L. Marcus. But that's how I supported my sister and myself. So my sister had 2 kids. We lived in a 1-bedroom apartment. And I still went to college. I never told a single teacher at my school. Most people who know me don't even know I was in foster care. This is the first time I've ever shared that publicly. I don't know why. I'm not ashamed of it. But I never told my teacher. There's one teacher in 7th grade, Kathy Baldwin. I used to call her. I looked her number up in the phone. Remember the white pages? I used to call her every week. She would say to me, you can't call me at my house. I called her every holiday. What you doing? How's Brian? How's everything going? I knew her husband. I knew she lived on 60th and Burleigh. I never told her anything about me. I would go in her classroom every day. To this day, I still call her. Her daughter just graduated from college. She's going to be a social worker. I said, oh boy.
Oh boy, is right.
Real story. But I'll say that to say it's the messaging. It was something she was giving me that I didn't know. It was something that she was giving. Graduated from college, 4 years there, fighting for the rights of African Americans. I was in an all-white town in Winona. That's another conversation. I was the only African American English major at the school. Was I prepared to be an English major? Absolutely not. They were reading the Canterbury Tales I had never heard of. We were reading Maya Angelou at my school. They were not reading that. So it's important to know what you need to survive through the system. Okay? Fast forward, finished college. My mom died when I was a senior. So I had 5 younger siblings. So one of my brothers was homeless. We didn't know it at the time. So he would be in a foster home, but the foster parents would always end up having relationships with him. So he would run away, etc. So at the time he was homeless. So I came home he was in 8th grade to help take care of him. He works for social service agency. He's a supervisor. He's actually just joined the police academy. So he's going to be joining the police academy. So to wrap it up, fast forward, received my master's degree in school counseling. Then I've got 3 master's degrees. So foster care does not determine where you're going to be. Okay, and I wanted to end with that because I know sometimes we don't like to. I'm looking at you all like, what she know about education? So I'm telling you personally, I know the importance of advocacy.
Right.
Okay? So, last thing, honestly. Oh, I got 8 minutes. 3 minutes, 4 minutes. Okay. So, the key with your students. So I told you what to do as a provider. The state of Wisconsin has moved into what's called academic and career planning. This is just free. You can say I went to the child welfare conference and I got a bonus. So this is bonus. I'm throwing this in. Okay? 3 major components. This is what we want for the child to know: who they are, where they're going, how they're going to get there. School districts. Most school districts are going to focus on where am I going and how do I get there. We always want to ask kids, where are you going? Where are you going? Where are you going? Where are you going? Where are you going after high school? Where are you going after high school? What you want to be? What you want to be? What you want to be? We forget the who am I? Who are you? How do you teach kids who they are? Do you know who they are? What do you believe they are? That's important. That's very, very important. So I wanted to put that in. Make sure that you help students, children that you're servicing, understand who they are. Not who their mama is, not who their last name is, their zip code. So what, you live in 53210? Who are you? Okay? Questions? Yes.
So one of the struggles I see, because I work with the foster parents, so if you have a foster child that is, say, African American, going to a low performing school, moves, so I'm thinking of one case, moves to a foster home in Whitefish Bay, okay? So how do you determine, then the foster parents are arguing for the child to go to Whitefish Bay because it's the, top whatever school. Do you still have to consider race and ethnicity? Removing, yes, they have better academic achievements at Whitefish Bay, but do you lose something when you move an African American child from, like you said, you went to an all black school, and now we're putting these children in an all white school?
I'm not saying that was a good thing.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
So it doesn't,
who makes that decision? Like,
Right.
how do you even
Good
make
question.
that decision?
Education outweighs their race. So we shouldn't pick a school based on the race. What is this school going to provide for this child educationally that far outweighs anything else? That's the most important thing. And then in terms of the school district, you have to act. We typically think if we go to an all-white school, we're going to have to battle racism. But you're battling racism at the public school, with the rest of the blacks. You just don't know it.
Is there a way to work with, because the agency cannot allow foster parents to change schools without, like, the CEO's approval, like they're supposed to stay in their school of origin. So then, how do we get the birth parent to also see that we're not just trying to remove their child and send them to this great Whitefish Bay neighborhood? You know what I mean? Like, that's a struggle too.
Yeah, but it boils down to, have you done your research? Why are you moving the kid? What are the benefits? Focus on the benefits. We know that stability in the school is important. However, you have to look at the benefits. And I don't know what type of school we're talking about, but getting the parent to see that. And I don't know, well, I don't want to give my opinion about Whitefish Bay, but make sure that if you're going to be advocating for that student, make sure you're doing that. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I just wanted to comment on that. I sent my daughter out to that one to school, and she really didn't like it. She was picked on. You know, she was 4, 5, 6, and things like that. So, just taking into consideration that the education might be a better education, but the child is being removed from the home and now a culture shock. So I was just saying what you said about advocacy. If the two work together and they're advocating and people are looking at the fact, the school is looking at the fact that this is new, that this can be traumatic, and what they're going to do to deter that, then as long as they're keeping that in mind.
Yes, thank you. We have one announcement. I'm just going to leave you all with a quote. You all know who Martin Luther King is? Dr. King? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Let me tell you what he said about education. Because we started out with why does education matter? He says the function of education is to teach one to think intensively and to think critically. Intelligence plus character. That is the goal of true education.
All right. Let's give Ms. King a hand.